Heartland Season 19 episode 4 kicks off with the kind of tension we've all been waiting for. And trust me, it doesn't hold back. The stakes are higher than ever, and just when we think we've got things figured out, this episode flips everything on its head. It's a wild ride of jealousy, survival, and love, and it leaves us wondering who will make it out alive. Let's dive right into the chaos. The episode begins with the tension simmering between Caleb and Nathan, and right from the get-go, we know that something is about to snap. The wilderness isn't just a backdrop here. It's a test of survival, both physically and emotionally. As Amy and Ashley set out on a desperate mission to find Caleb and Nathan, we're hit with the emotional weight of the situation. It's been clear for a while now that Amy's heart is still healing, still torn between her past and her present. Losing Ty was never easy for her, and now, the idea of possibly losing Nathan too? It's almost too much to bear. But the real drama begins with Caleb and Nathan's chaotic journey together. It's like watching two rivals forced to work together to stay alive, and the tension is unbearable. The episode really dives into the complexity of Caleb's emotions, the jealousy, the unresolved feelings for Amy, and you can see it all bubbling beneath the surface. He's a man torn between loyalty to his friends and the raw, unresolved emotions that he's been carrying for years. Nathan, on the other hand, is trying his best to keep things together. But his growing tension with Caleb only adds fuel to the fire. Every step they take in the wilderness feels like a step closer to an explosion. And honestly, it's hard to look away then. Just when it seems like things might settle down, Caleb does something that shifts the entire mood. During a quiet moment in the cabin, the topic of Amy and Nathan's past comes up. And that's when the jealousy spills over. Caleb can't hold it in anymore. And his actions, subtle but cutting, are enough to throw everything off balance. When Ashley hears that Caleb had feelings for Amy back in the day, she's blindsided. Honestly, who wouldn't be? Here they are, supposed to be in this stable relationship. And yet Caleb's lingering feelings for Amy start to stir things up again. The scene shifts as we watch the dynamics between Caleb, Nathan, and Amy play out, each one trying to navigate their tangled emotions. But it's not just the jealousy that's brewing. There's a sense of impending doom hanging in the air, a feeling that something horrible is just around the corner. We don't know what it is, but we feel it in our bones. This episode plays with our emotions, pulling us from one intense moment to the next. And each scene keeps us on edge, questioning what will happen next. Will they survive the wilderness? Will Caleb and Nathan's unresolved feelings destroy them before they even make it out of the forest? As the episode progresses, the stakes get higher. And just when we think we know where things are headed, the unexpected happens. Caleb's plane accident marks the beginning of the real chaos. And it's impossible not to feel the weight of that moment. Caleb and Nathan are in serious trouble, and it's not just a matter of surviving the wilderness. It's a matter of survival itself. With no clear way out, their fates are now in the hands of Amy and Ashley, who must track them down and bring them back. But even if they find them, will they be able to save them in time? This is where the tension peaks. Amy's determination to find Nathan is palpable, and you can feel the emotional roller coaster she's riding. But it's not just about rescuing him. It's about closure, healing, and moving forward. The entire episode is a push and pull between the past and present. And Amy's struggle to let go of Ty while embracing Nathan is at the core of it all. It's a heartbreaking journey, one that we know won't be easy. So, as the episode unfolds, we're left with one burning question. What will Amy do when she finds Nathan? And more importantly, will Caleb and Nathan survive the wilderness long enough for Amy to make that decision? Stay tuned, because Heartland Season 19 Episode 4 has only just begun, and the drama is only getting started. As we dive deeper into the episode, the wilderness becomes not just a physical barrier but an emotional one. Caleb and Nathan's fight for survival becomes more than just about staying alive. It becomes a battle of wills, of pride, and of unresolved tension. The dynamics between these two men, who have always had a complicated history, take a dark turn when they're forced to rely on each other for survival. The moment they crash, it's like the whole world stops. The silence, the shock, the realization that everything they thought they knew is now upside down. It's impossible to ignore the emotional undercurrent that runs through their struggle. Caleb, with his rugged confidence and his past filled with baggage, isn't exactly the easiest person to depend on. And Nathan, though trying to be the steady, reliable one, is grappling with the weight of being caught in this survival scenario with someone he's barely on speaking terms with. The tension is palpable. Every move they make, every word they say, feels loaded, like something could snap at any moment. The stark contrast between them only makes the situation more intense. Caleb's raw, sometimes reckless energy clashes with Nathan's calm, controlled demeanor. At first, it seems like Caleb is taking charge, trying to make decisions for the both of them. But as the hours stretch on and the elements take their toll, We see the cracks in his tough exterior. His jealousy, his insecurities, all of it starts to spill out. There's no hiding anymore. Caleb isn't just fighting the wilderness, he's fighting himself. The shame of his past feelings for Amy, the guilt of not having fully moved on. It all starts to weigh heavily on him. And Nathan, well, he's not one to sit idly by. He knows what's happening. And the tension between them only makes their already perilous situation worse. The wilderness, as unforgiving as it is, becomes a character in itself. The cold, the isolation, the constant pressure to stay alive. All of it amplifies the internal conflict between Caleb and Nathan. And even though they're both trying to survive, you can't help but feel like the wilderness is playing a cruel game with them, pushing them to confront their deepest fears and regrets. It's one thing to survive in the wild, it's another to survive the battle raging inside you. Meanwhile, Amy's search for Caleb and Nathan takes a dramatic turn. She knows that finding them is not just a physical task, it's an emotional one. The thought of losing Nathan, of losing someone she's begun to build a future with, cuts deeper than anything. After losing Ty, Amy's heart was shattered, and as much as she's tried to move forward, that part of her will always be there. But Nathan is different. He's someone who's helped her heal, someone she's allowed to love again. So when the stakes are raised, when she faces the very real possibility of losing him in the same way she lost Ty, it's like she's being torn in two. The journey to find them isn't just a rescue mission. It's a battle for her heart. And then there's Ashley, who's caught in the crossfire. She's trying to be supportive, trying to keep the peace between Caleb and Nathan. But you can see the strain on her face. The more she learns about Caleb's past with Amy, the more confused she becomes. She's always known Caleb's history with Amy, but hearing it from Nathan, hearing how close Caleb and Amy were, forces her to confront something she's never had to deal with before. The jealousy, the feelings Caleb never truly let go of. It's all spilling out in ways Ashley can't ignore. She wants to trust Caleb, wants to believe that their relationship is strong enough to weather the storm. But it's getting harder and harder. Her mind is racing, and she's left wondering if their bond is as secure as she thought. As Amy and Ashley continue their search, the desperation grows. Every second feels like an eternity, and the emotional weight of the journey becomes almost too much to bear. Amy can't stop thinking about Nathan, about what he means to her, about how much she's risking by letting him into her heart again. The guilt she feels for moving on from Ty, for possibly betraying his memory, is overwhelming. But she knows she can't go back. She's fought too hard to find love again. And Nathan is the one who has helped her rebuild that part of herself. The love they share is real, and the thought of losing him is unbearable. The episode plays with our emotions, making us question whether Amy and Nathan will get the happy ending they deserve, or whether this accident will tear them apart forever. We're left hanging on the edge of our seats, waiting to see if they'll make it out of the wilderness alive, if they'll be able to heal the fractures in their relationship, or if Caleb and Nathan's battle for survival will cost them more than just their physical lives. The emotional stakes have never been higher, and the drama is only just beginning. What's truly heartbreaking about this episode is that Amy is facing her worst nightmare. The idea of losing someone she loves again, of losing her chance at happiness, feels like too much to bear. And yet, the search for Nathan, for Caleb, becomes a journey of self-discovery, of facing the past and realizing that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting the past. It's about accepting it, learning from it, and finally giving herself the chance to love again. This is where the episode truly shines, in the quiet moments between the chaos. The moments when Amy pauses, when she reflects, when she realizes just how far she's come and how much more she has left to give. The wilderness, the danger, the fear of losing Nathan. They're all catalysts for her own personal growth. And by the end of this episode, she's not just searching for Nathan. She's searching for herself, for the peace that she's been fighting for all this time. The stakes are real, and the stakes are high. But what's most compelling about this episode is the emotional journey these characters are on. Whether they make it out of the wilderness or not, one thing is certain: they're not the same people who went in. As the search for Caleb and Nathan intensifies, the pressure on Amy and Ashley continues to mount. There's a palpable sense of urgency as they race against time. But it's more than just the ticking clock that weighs on them. It's the emotional toll that this journey is taking. The raw vulnerability that Amy can't hide anymore. As much as she tries to focus on the task at hand, her mind keeps drifting back to Nathan. The connection they've built, the quiet moments they've shared, and the undeniable bond that's grown between them, it all flashes before her eyes. And it's enough to make her heart ache with fear. Will she find him in time? Will he still be alive when she does? These questions echo in her mind, each one more terrifying than the last. But Ashley's presence is a bit of a lifeline for Amy. As much as this search is about Nathan, it's also about the solidarity between the two women. They've been through their own share of emotional struggles, and in some ways, This search becomes their shared journey, a test of their resilience, their bond, and their ability to face what lies ahead. There's a quiet strength in Ashley that Amy begins to rely on more than she ever thought she would. Together, they push forward, their determination unshaken, even as they both feel the weight of the unknown pressing in on them. Meanwhile, Caleb and Nathan are still deep in the wilderness, fighting for their survival in ways neither of them anticipated. At first, Caleb's brashness seemed like it would carry them through, but now, we're seeing just how limited his skills are when it comes to the real dangers of the wild. Nathan, ever the pragmatist, is doing his best to hold it together, but the tension between the two men is reaching a boiling point. Caleb's emotions, the jealousy, the regrets, the unresolved feelings, have put a serious strain on their ability to work together. Every time they make progress, there's a setback, a moment where one of them cracks under the pressure. It's clear that Caleb is starting to question his place in all of this. Is he really just a man trying to survive? Or is he fighting something much deeper? His feelings for Amy have always been complicated, but out here in the wilderness, the reality of his situation hits him hard. He's in a life-or-death struggle with Nathan, the man who is everything Caleb is not: calm, collected, and sure of his place in the world. Caleb's anger and frustration with Nathan reach new heights, and it's becoming clear that their survival is no longer just about getting out of the wilderness. It's about each of them coming to terms with their own demons. Nathan, for his part, is trying to keep his cool, but the pressure is starting to crack his stoic facade. He's always been the reliable one, the one who holds everything together, but even he has limits. The constant tension with Caleb, the fear of being lost out here forever, and the overwhelming sense that his life is hanging by a thread, it's starting to take its toll. He's not as invincible as he once seemed, and we start to see a vulnerability in him that's been buried under the surface for so long. As the hours drag on and the cold sets in, Caleb and Nathan's situation becomes more dire. Their resources are dwindling, their energy is fading, and the wilderness seems to be closing in around them. There's no shelter, no safety, just the brutal reality of the situation. Every decision they make feels like a gamble, and each misstep brings them closer to the edge. They can't afford to make mistakes, but their fighting, their bickering, is leading them straight into danger. They're on the brink of collapse, both physically and emotionally. And yet, there's a strange kind of bond that starts to form between them. It's not love, not friendship, not even respect, but it's something. As they endure the same hardships, the same fear of death, they begin to understand each other in ways they never have before. There's an unspoken realization that they might be each other's only hope of surviving this ordeal. In a twisted way, they're forced to depend on one another, and while they're still at odds, there's a subtle shift. The animosity, the bitterness, the jealousy, it doesn't disappear, but it starts to evolve into something more complex. Back in civilization, Amy is still haunted by the idea of losing Nathan. The flashbacks to her time with Ty are unrelenting. Every corner of her mind brings her back to him, to the love they shared, and to the memories that will never fade. She feels guilty, as if loving Nathan somehow betrays Ty's memory. But the more she reflects on it, the more she realizes that Ty wouldn't want her to stop living, to stop loving. Nathan isn't a replacement. He's a new chapter in her life, one that's been hard-earned and desperately needed. The journey she's on is not just about rescuing Nathan, but about giving herself permission to move forward, to embrace the love that's waiting for her. The emotional toll of the search becomes evident as Amy starts to question everything. Is this love real? Is this worth the risk? The journey she's on is no longer just about finding Nathan. It's about confronting her fears, her doubts, and ultimately, her heart. Can she love again? Can she allow herself to open up to someone new after all the pain she's been through? These questions linger in her mind as she and Ashley press on, their determination unwavering. But then, just when it seems like they might finally find Caleb and Nathan, something unexpected happens. A shift in the wind, a change in the atmosphere, whatever it is. It's enough to stop them in their tracks. The feeling of dread returns, thick and heavy in the air. They're close. Too close. And yet, the danger feels more real than ever before. Amy's heart races as she braces herself for what's coming, knowing that the final act of this story is about to unfold. Will they find Caleb and Nathan in time? Or will the wilderness claim them forever? One thing's for sure, the clock is ticking and the stakes couldn't be higher. As the search for Caleb and Nathan grows more desperate, the emotional intensity reaches new heights. Amy and Ashley, despite their tireless efforts, are beginning to feel the weight of the impossible task ahead. They've been searching for hours, maybe even days, but the wilderness continues to taunt them. Every new step they take seems to lead them in circles, every rustling leaf, every gust of wind adding to the feeling that they're so close yet so far away. The relentless nature of their mission, the unyielding pressure, is starting to break them down. But Amy's determination refuses to let her give up. She can feel Nathan's presence as though he's out there somewhere, and that belief keeps her moving forward. It's in these moments of despair that Amy starts to truly confront her own internal battle. The emotional storm brewing within her is impossible to ignore. She's not just battling nature, she's battling herself. The guilt, the fear, and the overwhelming love she feels for Nathan are all mixing together in a way that's almost too much to bear. Her thoughts keep racing back to Ty. Could she ever truly move on from him? Can she let Nathan in? The past seems to haunt her at every turn, and yet, there's a piece of her that knows the only way to heal is to move forward. But is she ready? Is she willing to face the possibility of a future with Nathan? And then, just when everything seems like it's slipping away, a breakthrough comes. A piece of evidence. A clue that leads them closer to the men who are hanging by a thread in the wilderness. Amy's heart races as she realizes they're not far from finding Caleb and Nathan. The surge of hope, the adrenaline that hits her body is almost overwhelming. After everything she's been through, after all the doubts and the fear, this moment, this small victory, is the light at the end of a very long tunnel. But even then, that nagging sense of dread doesn't leave her. The danger is still very real, and Caleb and Nathan's survival is hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Caleb and Nathan's situation grows dire with each passing hour. The wilderness is no longer just a setting. It's a cruel antagonist that seems intent on taking everything from them. Their physical strength is beginning to fail them. The cold, the hunger, and the endless exhaustion are taking their toll. The emotional weight of their situation is heavy. But it's the fight for survival that really starts to push them to their breaking point. Caleb, still harboring deep resentment and jealousy, is starting to crack. His resolve is faltering, and his bitterness is bubbling to the surface in ways that are difficult to ignore. But Nathan is trying to hold it together, trying to keep their heads above water, even as the odds against them continue to stack up. The real turning point comes when Caleb, exhausted and emotional, finally cracks under the pressure. His jealousy, his anger, and his fear of losing Amy all collide in a brutal moment of honesty. For the first time in a long time, Caleb faces the truth of his feelings. Feelings that have been buried for far too long. The rawness of the moment is almost heartbreaking. It's clear that Caleb is a man at war with himself, caught between his past and his present. Between the man he was and the man he wants to be. The wilderness has stripped away his defenses, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. And in that moment, when everything seems lost, Nathan steps in. With his calm, steady hand, Nathan offers a lifeline. A glimmer of hope for Caleb that they might still make it out of this alive. But the danger isn't over yet. Caleb and Nathan's survival isn't guaranteed. They may have reached an emotional breakthrough, but they're still stuck in the wilderness with no easy way out. Every step they take feels like a gamble, and their fate is still uncertain. But their bond, however fragile, is the one thing that could pull them through. The question now is whether they'll be able to rely on each other long enough to survive, or if the weight of their past will ultimately be their undoing. As Amy and Ashley push forward, they can feel the weight of the moment approaching. The closer they get to Caleb and Nathan, the more intense the stakes become. The past, the present, and the future are all converging in this one moment. Amy is not just fighting to save Nathan, she's fighting for herself, for the chance to move on, to find peace, and to embrace the love that's waiting for her. The wilderness has taken so much from them, but it hasn't taken their will to survive. When they finally come face to face with Caleb and Nathan, it's a mix of relief and dread. Amy's heart leaps at the sight of Nathan, but the relief is short-lived. Both men are in bad shape, battered and broken by the wilderness. And there's a harsh realization that the battle isn't over yet. They've made it out of the wild, but the emotional scars, the jealousy, the anger, the unresolved feelings are still there. The journey back home, both physically and emotionally, is just beginning. But even in this moment of chaos, there's a sense of resolution. Amy has found Nathan, and with that, she's found a piece of herself. It's not the end of her story, but it's a new beginning. She's come to terms with her past, and while the road ahead will be challenging, she's finally ready to face it. The same goes for Caleb and Nathan. They've come through the storm, but the emotional storm isn't over yet. Their bond has been tested, and though it's been strained, it might just be stronger for it. The episode ends with a sense of bittersweet closure. They've survived the wilderness, but the journey is far from over. The emotional toll of what they've endured will linger. But it's a reminder that survival isn't just about getting out alive. It's about facing the things that haunt us and finding the strength to keep going. Heartland Season 19 Episode 4 is a testament to the power of resilience, of love, and of facing the storm head-on. No matter what. As the dust begins to settle from the emotional and physical storm that Caleb, Nathan, Amy, and Ashley have just weathered, the aftermath of their survival journey starts to hit. They've made it through the wilderness, but the scars, both visible and invisible, remain. The exhaustion on their faces tells the story of what they've endured. But it's the unspoken weight of everything they've gone through that really cuts the deepest. Amy, having found Nathan, is now faced with the reality of what it means to move forward. She's battled not only the wilderness but also the ghosts of her past. And now, for the first time in a long time, she's standing on the edge of a new chapter. But before they can even begin to process their survival, the tension between Caleb and Nathan lingers like a cloud, ready to burst. Their journey out of the wilderness wasn't just about finding their way back to civilization. It was about finding their way back to each other, even if they didn't want to. Caleb's unresolved feelings for Amy and Nathan's quiet determination have kept them at odds for far too long, and though they've made it through the worst, their relationship remains precariously fragile. Amy's presence might have brought a sense of resolution to Caleb, but it doesn't erase the past. And it doesn't undo the raw emotions that have simmered between these two men for years. There's a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in their interactions once they're back in the safety of the community. The tension between them hasn't disappeared. It's just been buried under layers of survival instinct and the shared experience of their ordeal. But it's there still. Caleb's pride, Nathan's calm, and Amy's love for both of them create a dynamic that's nearly impossible to navigate. For Amy, it's the constant balancing act between loyalty, love, and letting go of the past. She's forced to confront the painful truth, no matter how much she might want to move on from Ty. The past will always be a part of her. And while she might love Nathan, part of her will always carry the memory of Ty. The aftermath of the crash, the emotional trauma, and the healing process for all of them is far from simple. Caleb, while beginning to reconcile with his emotions, is still struggling with his own guilt. The crash, the jealousy, the realization that he had been holding on to something that wasn't his to hold, all of these feelings come crashing down on him when the adrenaline wears off. But Nathan, ever steady, ever grounded, finds a way to show Caleb that they can rebuild from the wreckage. It's not about fighting for dominance, it's not about who's right or wrong, it's about survival. It's about letting go of the anger and finding peace, even in the messiest of situations. But the most significant part of this journey is what it means for Amy's future. As she looks